What's up guys, Sean Alawani, RealScienceAthletics.com. And in this video, the big question, will the coronavirus lockdown kill your gains? Now obviously the title's meant to sound clickbaity, but in all seriousness, what can you realistically expect from this whole situation in terms of muscle loss versus muscle gain? Is a home workout plan, even if it is properly structured, is that really enough for you to keep gaining muscle or at least maintain what you already have? Or should you still expect some degree of regression, and if so, how much? So the answer here is not black and white. It depends on several different things. So let's go over it to give you a better idea here. Now, I did a video a few years back titled, How Long Does It Take to Lose Muscle? So let me go over a few key points from that video first. So home quarantine workouts aside, assuming you just stop training altogether, okay, you don't pick up a single weight, but you still continue to eat somewhere around your maintenance calories and you take in sufficient protein, so around 0.8 grams per pound of body weight or higher, most of the data shows that it takes at least 2 weeks before you'll actually start losing actual lean muscle tissue. Now keep in mind that that's just when the process will start occurring, and then from there, it'll continue occurring at a slow and gradual pace each week after that. So as long as your diet is not horrible, okay, you're not going super low on protein, even after 3, 4, 5 weeks off from training, the vast majority of your muscle mass will still remain intact. You might lose a very small amount, but it really won't be anything too significant. What probably will happen though is that you'll notice that your visual appearance will start degrading probably after about the 2-week mark. Your overall physique will probably start to look a bit smoother and flatter and just less full in general, and that will create the impression that you've lost a whole bunch of muscle very quickly. However, just understand that that loss in fullness is mostly a result of decreases in water and glycogen levels, and to some degree also from less inflammation in the muscle tissue as well because of inactivity. And those are all just temporary factors that will come back very quickly once you go ahead and start training again. So that's what we're dealing with if we're talking about not training at all. So if you haven't been training for the past 2 or 3 weeks, maybe you've gotten a bit discouraged by this whole situation right now, and you think all your progress is just going to erode and there's no point in even trying now, or you've just been under a lot of mental stress and training just isn't on your mind and you've decided to take a break, the good news is that you probably have lost very little, if anything, at this point. And if you do want to pick yourself back up and start lifting again, it'll pretty much be like resuming from where you left off. You might have lost a little bit of strength, since strength is a skill, and when you stop performing certain movements, your body is going to become less efficient at them. But as far as actual muscle goes, not really a concern. Now, what if you have been consistently training from home in the last few weeks and you plan to continue training from home and your goal is to either maintain your existing mass or to actually make new gains, and your equipment availability is either limited or non-existent? Now, obviously, if you have access to a basic set of training equipment, let's say dumbbells, a pull-up bar, and a bench, maybe some resistance bands, and you have a reasonable amount of weight handy, then there's no reason at all why you can't continue making progress. You can easily train your entire body effectively with just that. It may not be 100% optimal depending on exactly what you have, but even with a very basic home gym setup, you can definitely continue moving forward and continue making progress. If you do have access to a basic home gym setup and you do want to grab a complete step-by-step program to maximize your results, then you can check out my body transformation blueprint by clicking up here or in the description box below. And once you download that plan, you can just shoot me an email and let me know exactly what equipment you do have, and I'll go ahead and customize the workout precisely to your situation. But now on to the other question, which is probably what the majority of you are wondering about, is what if you are limited on weight and you're limited on the number of different exercise variations that you can do? Well, first off is the big issue of weight. Okay, a lot of people have this idea that in order to get big, you have to lift big. That would just seem intuitively to be the case, but we know from the research that that's not exactly true. In order to get bigger, you do need to get stronger over time, but the precise rep range that you gain your strength in, that's not nearly as critical as most people think. The standard hypertrophy range has always been thought of as somewhere around, I'd say anywhere from about 5 to 12 reps or so, but we now have data showing that sets even as high as 30 reps can produce comparable hypertrophy to lower rep sets if And this is the key factor if those sets are taken close to muscular failure. Like I talked about in the last video, if you're just doing some lame pump circuit routine, you're cranking out a bunch of easy reps and jumping from exercise to exercise like so many people are showing on YouTube and Instagram right now, okay, that's not going to get the job done. That is a cardio and conditioning workout. That is not a hypertrophy workout. However, if you're treating that 20 or 30 rep set the same way that you treat, say, a 6 to 8 rep set, and you push that set all the way to the point of being within a few reps of true muscular failure, I would say ideally 1 to 2 reps short, then not only will that be enough of a stimulus for muscle maintenance, but you can actually continue to grow from that. Now, we don't necessarily know that over the long term, someone doing 30 reps per set would get the exact same gains as someone doing, let's say, 8 reps. I do have some doubts about that because if all you're doing is high rep sets, then there are certain drawbacks associated with that in terms of cardiovascular fatigue, mid-workout nausea, excessive soreness, things like that. But definitely in the shorter term, it looks like higher rep sets do work just fine. And so if you have a window that goes all the way up to 30 reps or so, maybe even a bit higher, then even with just your body weight and some basic household stuff, like let's say a couch, a table, chairs, a countertop, a wall, you don't even necessarily need all of that. But the point is that even with just your body weight and a few basic tools, you should have access to enough different exercise variations to where you can train all your major muscle groups, put those muscles under tension, and get close to or all the way to muscular failure within 30 reps and probably much less if you're choosing harder exercise variations. And as long as you can do that, then there's no reason why you can't maintain your existing muscle or continue to build new muscle, at least to some degree. Your muscles don't know and they don't care about the fact that you're in a commercial gym lifting barbells and dumbbells versus being in your living room using a loaded backpack or 2 5-kilo bags of rice or a suitcase or whatever else. The bottom line is that muscles respond to mechanical tension, and it doesn't matter what training tool you're using or even if it's just your own body weight. So for upper body, you've got things like push-ups. Okay, there are plenty of different push-up variations that can easily get you to failure well before 30 reps. And if you add a bit of weight with a loaded backpack or by placing a weight on your upper body, then it's going to be even more challenging. You can do handstand push-ups in place of overhead presses. You can do dips using the back of 2 sturdy chairs or the corner of a countertop. If you can find a place to do pull-ups, then that alone will train the majority of your back musculature right there, especially if you incorporate different grips and different angles. You can do inverted rows using a table or a countertop or by balancing a pipe or a strong broomstick across 2 chairs. For hamstrings, you've got Nordic leg curls, single leg Romanian deadlifts, reverse hyperextensions lying across a countertop, single leg hip thrusts. For quads, you've got Bulgarian split squats, pistol squats, step-ups, lunges, wall squats, and then most isolation exercises are pretty easy because they don't require much weight, and so even with lighter dumbbells or household items, you should still be able to get close to failure within 30 reps pretty easily. And then on top of this, you also have the option of using blood flow restriction training, which can produce comparable growth to regular sets and will make it so that even with very light weights, the sets are extremely challenging, even going as low as 20% of your 1 rep max. And again, if you're looking for a home structured workout plan that lists this all out step by step, then you can download my free upper lower split that I just uploaded a few days ago by clicking up here or using the link in the description box. The other thing to keep in mind is that there's a big difference between training for muscle maintenance versus training for muscle growth, in that it doesn't require nearly as much of a training workload for your body to hold on to its existing mass versus actually building new muscle. So if your goal right now is mainly just to maintain the bulk of your existing muscle rather than trying to make new gains, then that should be very easily achievable. But the bottom line here, guys, is that whether you just want to maintain or you want to make continual ongoing gains, if you can train your entire body, find movements that get you within a rep or 2 of true muscular failure, and in the case of making new gains, you also achieve progressive overload by gradually increasing the workload over time in some capacity, which I'll talk about very soon in another video. If you can do those things, then there is no physiological reason why you shouldn't be able to at least maintain and even still grow to some degree. It's likely not going to be quite as effective in comparison to having access to a full gym of training equipment with barbells and dumbbells of all different weights. But remember that there's a big difference between something being effective versus being optimal. Okay, just because something isn't optimal doesn't mean that it doesn't still work. So yeah, if you are able to make continued gains by training from home, it's probably not going to be at the same rate as what you were achieving previously if you're limited on equipment, but you'll still be able to move forward to some degree nonetheless. Now, I'm talking here, of course, in terms of hypertrophy. If you're a power lifter, then that's a different story. This is not a powerlifting channel, but if raw strength is your primary goal on, say, the squat, bench, and deadlift, then yeah, since strength is partly skill-based and it's based on nervous system efficiency, if you stop performing those movements, then you are going to regress on them to some degree. But keep in mind that muscle size is also highly correlated with strength. So even if you do just stick to a hypertrophy-based routine from home, that will still help to stave off a good chunk of those strength losses. And then the final point that I'd make on all of this is that even if you do regress to some extent during this time, whether it's in terms of muscle size or strength or both, because of muscle memory, whatever losses you do experience, those losses are going to come back at a much faster pace than it took to originally build them once you're back in the gym and you're on your normal program. Whenever you train with weights, the number of nuclei in your muscle cells increases, and then around those nuclei are smaller satellite cells that build up. And the amount of nuclei inside of the muscle is one of the primary factors that determines how large it can get. And when you go through a period of detraining, those satellite cells atrophy, but the additional nuclei, those stay in place. And so as soon as you start training again at your full capacity, you'll rebuild that lost muscle at a much faster rate because that underlying foundation of nuclei is still there. So at the end of the day, there's no reason to get too depressed about this whole situation. Okay, with the right program and the right approach in place, you should be able to maintain the majority of your existing muscle. And if you go about things properly and you keep your diet on point, then there's a decent chance that you should still be able to keep progressing to some degree. And even if for some reason you do end up losing a bit of muscle, you'll regain it very quickly once this is all over and once you're back in the gym again. So I hope you found this video helpful. If you have any questions related to at-home training, you can go ahead and post them in the comments below. Hit that like button if this was useful. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe. At Sean Nalawani is where you can find me on Instagram for more daily tips and updates, and RealScienceAthletics.com is where you can grab my no BS science-based supplements to fully maximize your results. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll talk to you in the next video.